Hey there, this is Women on the Brink. I'm your host, Chris Jeffrey, a registered acupuncturist and wellness advisor with a passion for helping women live happier and more balanced lives. When I'm away from work, I'm usually outside in nature, either walking the seawall or I'm hiking in the mountains. And like many of you, my life has been filled with moments of hardship, some that I thought I couldn't overcome and really left me questioning my own strength. But through these challenges, I discovered resilience, courage, and a renewed sense of purpose. So I'm here to share not just my journey, but the lessons I've learned, and to remind you that no matter what obstacles come your way, there's always a path forward. And just to let you know, this podcast is not prescriptive, it's an offering. So please take what resonates with you and leave the rest. Hello, and welcome back to Women on the Brink. Today, we're looking at the final stretch of Girl Wash Your Face, Rachel Hollis's book that calls out the lies that we tell ourselves and the excuses we cling to when life feels too overwhelming or too uncertain or too painful. So these last chapters hit pretty deep, from the idea that you're defined by your past to the myth that you need a hero to rescue you, to the damaging belief that you're not enough unless you're achieving constantly. And I chose Girl Wash Your Face for these last two episodes because it speaks so directly to the inner dialogue that so many of us carry and the lies that we've absorbed about who we're supposed to be and what we're allowed to want and how we're expected to show up in the world. And, Rachel Hollis doesn't pretend to have it all figured out either, but she brings this raw honesty that sparks reflection and calls us to take responsibility for our own growth. So, whether you love her or feel conflicted about some of her takes, the book opens up a great conversation about self-worth and personal agency and the messy, beautiful work of becoming who we truly are. And it felt like an honest talk about the stories we believe and how we can begin to rewrite them. So let's dive in and look at the next 10 lies, starting with number 11. Other people's kids are so much cleaner or better behaved or more advanced. The truth is, comparison parenting is just another trap that disconnects us women from our intuition and from the unique needs of our children. So letting go means remembering that your version of motherhood doesn't have to match what anyone else is doing with their kids. It's about grounding into your values and showing up as you are and honoring your child's and your rhythms. And when we drop the comparison, we make space for connection and compassion and the kind of presence our kids actually need, which has nothing to do with perfection. And I think that's the message we really want them to be receiving from us, right? Number 12, I need to make myself smaller. This really ties in with not feeling like we're enough, which was brought up last week. I think many of us are doing this kind of self-talk without even knowing we're doing it. You need to ensure that you're being seen and heard. You have full permission to own your ambitions loudly and boldly and without apology. And I say this over and over again, but for far too long, women have been conditioned to downplay their drive and to shrink their goals so others feel comfortable around them, or, to frame their dreams as nice little hobbies rather than these great, powerful pursuits. But I don't think ambition is anything we should be hiding. It's a pulse, it's a calling, it's this deep knowing that we're here to build and create and lead in ways that matter. So owning our ambitions unapologetically means rejecting the idea that wanting more makes us too much. And it means standing tall in that vision and allowing success in all its forms to be part of our story without guilt or explanation. And number 12 segues into the next topic, which is I'm too much for people. But the tender truth is that not everyone will understand or support our dreams. And that's very okay. When we step into a vision that challenges the norm or stretches beyond what others expect of us, it can make other people uncomfortable. And their doubt isn't a reflection of our capability, it's just a mirror of their own fears or limitations. Does that make sense? And the path of following your dream can feel really lonely at times, especially when you crave that validation from people who are closest to you. But staying true to what is calling you means learning to walk with courage and even alone sometimes when those cheerleaders are quiet and silent. So your dream doesn't need universal approval. It really just needs commitment from you. And number 14, I'm not talented enough. And so, talent might crack open the door, but honestly, it's the grit and resilience and the daily decision to keep showing up, especially when things feel hard or uninspiring or unclear, that truly builds momentum. And we live in a culture that's so obsessed with overnight success and viral breakthroughs and instant results that it's really easy to forget that real, meaningful growth rarely looks glamorous. It's not built in the spotlight, it's built in those early mornings when no one's watching, or in the late nights when doubt starts to creep in, and even in the quiet in between moments where no external reward is in sight. This kind of growth happens when you write the next page or take the next step or have the next hard conversation, even when it feels like nothing's changing. So, honestly, we don't need to be the smartest or the most charismatic or the most talented in the room. Just need to be the one who doesn't quit, the one who's willing to keep going, not because the success is guaranteed, but because the work is worth it. And that brings us to number 15. I'm not good at making friends. Hmm. I mean, the real truth about strong, healthy relationships, they just don't happen on their own. They're built slowly and intentionally and through time and effort and a whole lot of vulnerability. And again, we live in a culture that glorifies this instant connection. So it's really easy to feel discouraged when relationships take work. But the strongest bonds aren't the ones without conflict. They're the ones where both people are willing to show up, be seen, and keep choosing each other even when it's uncomfortable. It takes courage to let down our guard and to ask for what we need and to listen with empathy and to repair when things get messy. Real connection is earned. It's not assumed. And in my experience, it's always worth the work. Number 16, I can't tell the truth. And I really thought hard about this one. The power of living authentically and owning your story, the beautiful, the messy, the imperfect, powerful truth of who you are. I've always felt pressure to kind of edit myself and to shrink or to perform versions of my life that feel more acceptable or polished. But I have to say, the great thing about age is that it's shown me that the real freedom begins when I stop performing and I start honoring my full self. And that includes my flaws and my past mistakes and even my bold dreams. All of it. So owning my story means standing in it without shame and trusting that my lived experience holds wisdom and strength, and in knowing that I don't need to be anyone else to be worthy. Your truth is not too much. It's exactly what makes you magnetic and unique. And then number 17, I'm defined by my weight. So we're really pulling back the layers on a belief that so many of us quietly carry. I'm defined by my weight. This message is baked into our culture, right? It's blasted in media and reinforced in subtle and sometimes not so subtle ways our whole lives as women. But your body is not your worth. Your value isn't tied to a number on a scale or a clothing size or how closely you match some freaking narrow standard of beauty. So separating self-worth from appearance means beginning to see yourself through a deeper lens where you're honoring your strength and your heart and your creativity and your resilience. And I've said this before, we're not projects to be fixed or a body to be judged. We're a whole person, already worthy and already enough. And number 18, I need a drink. Here's my vice. I mean, I eat well, I exercise, and really work on my mental well-being constantly. But there's a difference between true self-care and the unhealthy coping mechanisms we sometimes mistake for it. So when we're overwhelmed or we're exhausted or hurting, it's so easy to reach for the quick fixes, numbing out with food or alcohol or overworking or even scrolling or people pleasing, anything to avoid feeling what's really going on. And I know from experience that those quick fix habits might bring some temporary relief, but they often leave us feeling even more drained and more disconnected. So real self-care isn't necessarily glamorous. It's about setting boundaries or reaching out for some support or getting the rest your body really needs. And being willing to sit down with discomfort instead of running from it. So it begins with a deep, honest look at where I am, paired with some compassion for myself in that moment. And honestly, I'm going to say here, no one is immune. We're all reaching for something to soothe our discomfort, even if it's just through judgment and criticism of others. And number 19, there's only one right way to be. There's so much freedom when we can reject some of those societal expectations and really embrace our individuality. From an early age, as girls, we're handed a script. Be nice, be quiet, be pretty, be agreeable, be successful, but not too ambitious. But what if you tossed that script and wrote your own? So embracing your individuality means honoring what lights you up, even if it doesn't make sense to others. So when you stop bending yourself to fit into someone else's mold, you make space to become who you were always meant to be. And that's where our true power lives. And lastly, I need a hero. So the fairy tale tells us that we need a hero to save us. But the truth is, you don't need rescuing, you need remembering. And that remembering is that you are responsible for creating the life you want, that your power isn't waiting in someone else's hands, and that no one's coming to hand you permission. And it can feel really scary to realize that the direction of your life is truly just up to you. But it's also so wildly empowering, because when you stop waiting for the perfect moment or the right person or the outside validation, you start to make some pretty bold moves and you start building that life that feels true. So you stop playing small and you become the hero you were looking for. So Rachel Hollis leaves us with no illusions, but actually plenty of hope. So she's not saying it's easy or that you're going to get it all right the first time. She's just saying that it's possible and that you're fully capable of creating a life that feels good and true, not just one that looks good from the outside. So the lies we bought into for years don't have to define us, and we can choose differently. We can choose to stand back or to speak up, to let go and to move forward again and again. So the invitation is simple and powerful. Stop waiting for someone to save you and start becoming the person who saves herself. Because at the end of the day, that's what real freedom looks like. So we have a couple of great guest interviews coming up on Women on the Brink. So please be sure to check in with us every Thursday. Thanks for showing up today. Thanks for joining, and I want you to know that this isn't just a podcast, this is a movement. So share this information with your friends, and let's go, ladies.